Hi, welcome to my presentation titled The Sufferable Life of Lady Hyegyong. She was born in Seoul, South Korea on August 6, 1735, to an aristocratic family. Because of their status, she was able to obtain an education. She spoke Korean, and because of her education, she was able to learn how to read and write. Her aunt actually taught her how to read and write. She was taught in vernacular Korean. Her religion is very obscure and hard to find as I did my research, but it is known that she practiced Neo-Confucianism, which is similar to Confucianism, but they reject the philosophies of Buddhism and Taoism. The picture on the right is the founder of Neo-Confucianism, but I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. Here I have a quote from Lady Hyegyong's book, The Memoirs of Lady Hyegyong, that I feel like perfectly describes the tone of her book and the tone of her life. I have forced myself to write. Many things were hard to speak of. Some were just too painful for me to write about, and I have left them out. Still, I have managed to write this in my white-haired old age. The hatefulness and hard-heartedness of humans are simply without limit. Calling upon heaven and weeping in pain, I lament my fate. I do believe this shows the amount of suffering Lady Hyegyong went through during her life. Here we have her family history. I'm not going to try and pronounce it all or any of their names because I know I'm going to butcher them. Her father was the Prime Minister of Korea, and so that helped them maintain and gain an aristocratic status and gain wealth. For her nuclear family, her husband was the Crown Prince Sado, as pictured on the right. He developed a very strange mental illness that caused him to, at first, not be able to put on clothes, and so since he got that mental illness up until his death, Lady Hyegyong dressed him. And then he started to set things on fire. And then he became physically abusive towards their servants and Lady Hyegyong. And then eventually started killing their servants. The son, Crown Prince Yuso, was a son that they had for 2 years, and then it died. And I can't imagine what Lady Hyegyong was feeling as all of this was going on. Then they had their son, King, I don't know how to pronounce that one, but the last son, as pictured on the left, and he, as you can see, became a king. The picture here, I could not find a picture of Lady Hyegyong. I wasn't sure if maybe back then they didn't paint women, or if she just wasn't important enough to have a portrait painted of her. But this is one, when I looked her up, this is one that came up, and I was reading about this painting, and it is said, even though you can't see her, it is said that she is the one being carried in the little carriage. Lady Hyegyong did not live through any historical events that would have had a significant impact on her life. She did not live through any wars, any market crashes, economic depressions. Everything that impacted her in her life was personal events that she had to experience. Lady Hyegyong only wrote one piece of work, and it was titled The Memoirs of Lady Hyegyong. The book, though, contained 4 parts. She wrote one in 1795, 1801, 1802, and 1805. She wrote this book as a autobiography, basically, detailing her family as an aristocratic Yangban, which that means they were composed mainly of civil servants and military officers. She married into a royal family. They tried to marry her at age 10, but her aunt fought for her and said, no, you're not marrying my daughter off at my niece off at age 10. And so she got married at 15, which still sounds so insane now. And her book details marrying into a royal family and what it was like to deal with her husband's mental illness and abuse. Lady Hyegyong is known for being very defensive of her family in her works. She uses the literary element of pathos to create empathy in the reader towards her family and her situation. She is very sympathetic and tries to provide and persuade the reader to feel empathy towards her son and especially her husband. Throughout the book, she creates a theme of everything is not what it seems like behind closed doors. You know, people weren't really aware of her husband's mental illness, and they did not know that he was abusive, and they did not know the things that he did. He once had an affair with another person, and he was becoming abusive towards that girl. And so Lady Hyegyong actually snuck her out and saved her. And I don't know about me, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be friends with the person my husband cheated on me with. So it shows her character. But once her father-in-law found out, he became very upset with Lady Hyegyong for not calling him out on this, surprisingly. And then she weaves the idea that the world is a very cruel and heartless place throughout all 4 parts, which is very understandable because Lady Hyegyong had a very hard life. And in conclusion, Lady Hyegyong lived to be 80 years old, and she actually died on January 13th, 1863 in Seoul. She almost got married off at the age of 10. She watched her 2-year-old son die, and she endured physical abuse for years by her husband. And then she had to watch the only man she ever loved get executed. And despite her hardships, Lady Hyegyong was able to make huge steps in women's rights because of the education she had been given when she was younger, and she was able to have her books published in Korea, and that was extremely revolutionary for the time to have a woman be published. And it will always be known as a milestone in the feminist movement, and it will always be thought of as one of the first big steps in Korea towards a more progressive society. Thank you for watching my presentation. I really enjoyed studying Lady Hyegyong, and I thought it was really interesting. I think she's a very brave woman, and I believe what she had to go through is extremely hard for anybody to go through. And I believe she's so strong for doing what she did and being able to write about it and re-experiencing all of those events.